Hi, this is H is for Hack, or on Discord, I'm known as Canadian Rider. I installed my DMO2 from ToSeven in late August 2023. My ToSeven has early firmware installed on it, and when I was tuning it, every time I would change a parameter, I would take photographs of all the info pages and any parameter that I changed. After about 300K, I had the settings tuned to my riding style, but I still continued to take photographs of the info pages on major rides. From the photographs of the info pages, I could get the total kilometers, the total amp hours, and the time from the pages. With this information, I was able to calculate the trip kilometers and the amp hour per trip. I could also calculate the kilometers per amp hour. The total minutes allowed me to calculate the average trip speed. With my 48 volt 14 amp hour battery pack, if I do not discharge it below 20%, that gives me 11.2 amp hours. By dividing the kilometers per amp hours into the amps, I can get the guesstimate of the range. As you can tell from the spreadsheet, the first 300 or so kilometers I spent tuning the torque sensor. If you average all the trips together, the kilometers per amp hour comes to 8, and that gives me a range of 89.5 kilometers, basically 90K. I think this is pretty conservative. Um, I've highlighted 3 different trips here, and the first one I want to talk about is from Lock 8 to Lock 1 and back. I've done that with the Tongchi 3 times, so I had a pretty good idea what the range should be like. When I first started the trip, I cycled pretty conservatively because I wasn't sure what the range the DMO2 would get compared to the Tongchi. I was pleasantly surprised when I arrived at Lock 1, the turnaround point, that I had so much battery left. So on my return trip, I took it up a few notches, ran more in sport and city mode as opposed to eco. I also recorded the trip on my Apple Watch. This gave me a good indication of how hard my human engine was working. The next trip I'd like to talk about is the trip I did last fall from Port Colborne to Fort Erie. Actually, it was Fort Erie Canadian Tire. That was a very windy day, and I used mostly in sport going there and at a high rate of speed, and it shows with the battery consumption. Next trip I want to talk about is a trip I did from Port Colborne to Fort Erie Waverly Park back to Port Colborne. After I completed this trip, the next day I reinstalled the Tongji and rode the same trip. This confirmed that the battery consumption was pretty close to being the same and confirmed that I was going to remove the Tongji and reinstall the DMO2 because it's a far superior mid-drive. Some conclusions here. The DMO2 is now permanently on my trike. It will be my main electric drive. Um, is it as efficient as Tongxi? I don't really know. Um, it's hard to say because the DMO2 is set for 500 watts and the Tongxi I have reduced down to 350. Um, what I did notice is that my cadence is higher with the DMO2. I don't have actual figures for that because the cadence meter, uh, there isn't one on the DMO2 as opposed to the Tongxi with the open source software and the 860 display, which has cadence on it. Now, I have bought a wireless cadence sensor that will link to my Apple Watch. So in the spring, when it gets warmer and I do more biking, I will get a good idea of what my cadence is. Um, I I like to cycle around 75 to 80. Uh, Now, the tongue chi doesn't have any way to record the number of amp hours used when I'm cycling. So, what I'm planning to do for the summer is I'm going to reinstall the Tongchi at 500 watts. And I have purchased over this winter a Grim Technology uh, CA3, Cycle Analyst 3. And that will, with a shunt connected between the battery and the controller, will actually uh, record the number of amp hours used. Now, I plan to use this for the Tongchi and the DMO2 because I want to get a better idea and independent uh, sensor, an independent. I want to get a device that can independently record the amp hours or watt hours used, and the Cycle Analyst 3 can do that for me with the shunt. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is also record my cadence with a wireless cadence sensor and the Apple Watch, so I get a better idea of the what my human motor is working at, because that's the other part of this puzzle is how hard am I working compared to the electric motor or in combination with the electric motor. So, okay, so in the background here you can see I'm riding. It's January. It's cold. um, I have been out a couple of times this winter, but only on sunny days. Uh, and yeah, so with that, I'm gonna end this conversation. You can watch me cycle if you want for a little while. Um, I am so if you did like this video, and leave a comment, and please like and subscribe. Um, I have other videos coming up. I think the next one in line is one I actually shot last summer when I had the Tongxi and the DMO2 stripped apart, and when I installed the DMO2 uh, back onto the boom. And there's been a number of people who have asked me how I attached it to the boom, and some questions about my chain rings. So hopefully that will be able to answer there. Okay, take care.